Hello, dear students. I, Mrs. Rajashree Naik, welcomes you again in online lecture series arranged by Gokhale Education Society's B.Y.K College of Commerce, Nashik. In the last online lecture, we have covered functions, meaning, nature, and definitions of public finance. Today, in this lecture, we will study the next part of chapter number 8, Public Finance in India. So students, these are the content points of today's lecture, which we will be studying in this lecture. Meaning of public finance and private finance, and differences between public finance and private finance, and expected questions. Meaning of public finance and private finance. Now first, meaning of public finance. Public finance is the study of income, debt, and expenditure of the government. It also includes various policies and methods employed to secure money and policies framed to pay the debt taken. Now, the meaning of private finance. Private finance is the study of the income, debt, and expenditure of the individual or a private company or business venture or an association. It includes study of their own view regarding earning, expenditure, and borrowing. Now, see the chart. The chart is about differences between public finance and private finance. Points of difference, public finance, private finance. So first, objectives, public finance, to offer maximum social advantage to the society. And private finance, to fulfill private interest. Now, second point, determination of expenditure. In private public finance, government first determines the volume and different ways of its expenditure. And private finance, an individual considers his income and then determines the volume of expenditure. Now, third point, credit status. In public finance, high degree of credit in the market. And private finance, credit of a private individual is limited. Fourth point of difference, right to print currency. In public finance, the government can print notes through Reserve Bank of India. And private finance, private individual does not enjoy such right. Fifth point, elasticity of finance. Public finance is more elastic. There is not much scope for changes in private finance. And the sixth point, effect on economy. Tremendous impact on the economy of a country, and private finance, marginal effect on the national economy. Now students, let us see the detailed explanation of each and every points of difference. Now, number one, objectives. The most fundamental difference between the two is that while the private finance is governed by the profit motive or by the prime consideration of economic return, the government is chiefly guided by political, administrative, and social benefit considerations. Thus, the private economic unit takes decisions purely on the basis of economic considerations, and the government is guided chiefly by welfare considerations. The government is not guided by short-term considerations. The interest of the entire economy resides supreme, and even at the risk of running economic losses, it ventures into programs like pollution control, then flood control, and maintenance of cultural heritage, and so on. Okay, now second point, determination of expenditure. Second point of difference, determination of expenditure. As far as an individual is concerned, He determines his expenditure on the basis of the income, in the sense that he cannot think of spending more than his income. He distributes the amount to be spent on various subjects with income at his fingertips. The position is quite contrary in the case of government. The government first decides the amount of expenditure to be done during a period of time and then frames scheme to secure money to meet the expenditure. Government has the power to increase its income by internal borrowings, but this is not possible for an individual. According to Dalton, for a public authority may arise either an internal or an external loans, that is to say, may borrow either from those who are subject to its authority or from those who are not. Again, it may make ends meet by inflating the currency. But an individual cannot raise an internal loan. Now, see the pie diagram, which shows you central government expenditure in the year 2020-21. Okay, see the pie diagram, which shows you central government expenditure in the year 2020-21. Now, third point of difference, credit status. The public finance sector has the ability to make huge decisions on income amount without much consequences. For example, it can effectively and deliberately increase or decrease the income amount instantly. Businesses and individuals can't make the decisions and implement them immediately. Now, students, fourth point, right to print currency. For discharging its debt obligations, the government can create currency, but a private economic unit does not have this authority. After the breakdown of the gold standard, the introduction of paper currency has provided unlimited power to the government to increase currency supply at will. Thus, this enables the government to absorb a share of the produce in the market, reduce the total supply of goods, and increase the total money supply in the economy. A private economic unit does not have this facility. Now, the next point, elasticity of finance. Government has legal powers to extend the sources of its income according to the needs of the time. It can use its sovereign power and can drastically punish the offenders. But it is not possible for a person to extend its income through such means. Government has the control over the whole national property, but individual has to rely upon his own individual standing. Moreover, government can take the help of the foreign alignment, or for this is not possible for a person to secure such supports. The last resort available to the government is the printing of new currency notes to increase its income. But an individual will be definitely but behind the bars for such an office, that is for printing currency notes, etc. Now, next point, effect on economy. Private finance faces suspension with the end of the individual's life or with the closure of the particular business enterprise. But governments are more tenable. It is well said in the context that king may come and king may go, but government is eternal. Governments keep on moving from generation to generation, interlinking past from present with an eye on future. The scope of public finance extends itself directly or indirectly to every person, every concern. Its effects nearly reach and every citizen. Everyone is the recipient of the services provided by the government. The scope of the private finance is limited in the sense that Only private needs are satisfied as individual looks after his welfare only. And individual and his actions affects none but him. Government has to spend on the activities which are not at once productive in their nature. It has to meet the expenditure of planning in order to achieve a long-sighted goal. But individual's foresight in this case is narrow. He cannot think of spending more and more on non-productive items. Since his financial sources are limited, for instance, an individual is not concerned with the problem of employment and maintenance of economic stabilization, but no government can ignore such important problems. So students, these are the total 6 points of difference, but let us see some extra points of difference. 7th point, public finance is subject to public censor but not the private finance. Meaning, a complete secrecy may be maintained by an individual regarding his income and savings. Okay, the meaning of this point that the public finance is subject to public censor but not the private finance. What I said, a complete secrecy may be maintained by an individual regarding his income and savings, but the government records are furnished to let the people see through the disparity of expenditure. Public is entitled to know, criticize, and the press is free to comment on the public finance outlays, its drawbacks and failures. Now, point number 8. There are predetermined policies behind public expenditure, but not so in case of private expenditure. Now, meaning of this point. Public expenditure is done to achieve the goals which are predetermined in their nature. 5-year planning in India, outline of the amount and the procedure of public expenditure. But this is not in the case with an individual. Point number 9, there is difference in the budgeting process of the public finance and private finance. Means the budget of the government is subject to the approval of the parliament of the concerned country. It is now a well-established principle. No taxation without representation, and no tax shall be levied without the due or process of law. Unless the demand gets approval of the parliament, the executive cannot spend even a single penny. But individual is his own master, and he did not ask for parliamentary approval for spending his bricks. And now, last point, point number 10. Government accounts are audited by constitutional authorities, but private finance has its own management. An individual can audit his accounts without performing formalities about it. But there is the procedural necessity in the case of public finance. The budget is to be prepared in the prescribed manner and to be presented according to the settled norms. Okay, so these are the extra points. Okay, now the expected questions. Answer the following. Explain the difference between public finance and private finance. So students, in today's lecture, we have covered meaning of public finance and private finance and differences between public and private finance. In the next online video lecture, we will go with the next part of chapter number 8. Till then, have a great time. Thank you.